After my mother died, we went to, my dad lost his job at the U.S. Steel Mill. And like I said, he was an electrical engineer. And the steel mill shut down up there. So everybody, all the men like lost their jobs. And, a lot of people was without, income. And, it was bad on the family. So um, my dad, being that my mom just passed and he lost his job, he didn't know what he was going to do. And he had me and my little brother. And so he moved down to Florida, where there was more work. We moved down here. And he brought, like, uh, I don't know, he brought co-workers with him, a couple of family members. Uh, and we moved down to a place called Plant City, Florida, and we had a house. And I remember that there were so many people in the house that we all had, because everybody was trying to get jobs, and they all had children. And then there was me and my brother, and he was always working all the time. I mean, he put us, like, with different babysitters all the time. And he was doing what he had to do. But it's still, after our mother dying, that it was it was fresh still in me and my little brother's mind. And it's like, of course he didn't know much being that age, but I'm sure he, infant, or toddler, they know, when living's different and stuff's going on. So, it was stressful on him as well. And I just, I remember him being gone a lot. And he had said that he had found a job. Um, Everybody in the house split up. They went their own ways. I think that whoever in our family went back to Ohio. I don't know what happened really much there. And his co-workers went the other. I just remember that we were going to Fort Myers, Florida, and he had got a job through a seminar that he went to for working at National Linen Service as an electrical engineer. And so, you know, like I said, there was no stability there. That was all. It was wild. Having all them people, and then your dad's not around. Then you're at different babysitters' houses. It was just me and my brother, and we went down to Fort Myers, and he had met a lady that I guess attended the seminar or whatnot. Her name was Pam. We ended up moving down there and living in her uh, one bedroom apartment. So, you already know, me and my brother was in the living room. He was in there with her, and um, this lady, I didn't really, I didn't really care for her too much. Outside of the fact she wasn't my mother, she was just different, and she really wasn't about us kids. And she knew what my dad did for a living, and she knew that he had the ability to have a good job with good money and whatnot. And so they got married. Well, my dad bought a house in Cape Coral, Florida, right outside of Fort Myers, and I was attending school, and my brother still was attending school. And it was real rough because she drank a lot, and she got real violent. And you know things were things were rough. And then she would tell my dad that I was doing whatever, this and that, so that he would come back and just light me up. I'm talking about that continual, beating that I was getting before my mother had passed, but it's a little bit more severe now. And she was just in the background, just playing, just, oh my God, I can't believe what he did, so disrespectful, this and that. And I really, at that point in time, it was more about me and my brother and me just sticking together with him and not really caring about her too much because I knew if I, one thing I got taught is if I don't have nothing good to say, then try not to say nothing at all. So that's what I would try to do. And she just make it to where it was unbearable. Like, I mean, it was harder on me than my little brother, but there were times when I watched her, like, just blow things out of proportion to my father about him, and I didn't. And then it got to where she was coming in and putting her hands on him, and I really wasn't going for it because he didn't deserve it. I know now, even as an adult, looking at my point of view, that just like when I was a child, he didn't deserve it, and I knew that he didn't deserve it. So it was her being drunk a lot of times, and it just got to where, you know, she would send us over to her parents' house while they would work, and her mother would watch us and this and that. And I'm talking about, they were okay, you know, they were a little stern, but her mother was, but her dad was the greatest, and so we would stay over there during the day and this and that. Well, my dad, after a couple of years, of living in the neighborhood, my dad, I got tired. Like, she would talk crap about my mother like it was dead when she was drunk. And even it began when she was sober. Like, she would be just talking crap about, a person that is not there to defend themselves. And I got very upset with that. So did my little brother. And I remember it was in 1992 that my dad, he was diagnosed with throat cancer, and it was due to exposure from asbestos while working in the steel mills up north. And I know, everybody was, now they ask me, you know, well, you could have went to a lawyer, this and that. Present day, they tell me this and that, but they're just so everybody knows there's a statute of limitations on that, 2 years from the day of the person's death. So needless to say, at this time, we were minors. There was nothing that was able, now that I know, there's still nothing I could do. But back to what I was saying, he was diagnosed with, throat cancer, and it was sad. It was very sad because I'm like, my dad's got cancer, my mother has passed away, and in between, them getting married in 1988, 1992, we have lost all four of my grandparents. They were, well, three of them had passed away. My grandpa had passed away before I was born. He, he committed suicide. But back to my dad, all of them had passed away, so it's like, we were having literally nobody, and I'm getting told this, and I just remember I watched my dad for 2 years disintegrate. I watched him just go from a 6'3", 250-pound man to a 6'3", 130-pound man. And this lady Pam was still getting drunk all the time and was blaming, like, getting mad at my father for no reason. And my dad is bedridden, and I remember her walking around and like yelling at him and cussing at him, and he's walking through the through the house with his IV, barely strong enough to make it through the house just to see what was going on, and she would be beating him with a broom, like she would be screaming at him, like, spit, everything coming off her face, like, and I'm like, this is evil. This is evil. I don't like what's going on, and my brother's crying, scared, like. I don't know what's going on in my life, but I know that it's going to crap pretty quick, and I can't do nothing right. I'm getting told that every day, and it's like it was unbearable. And so she was she was beating on me one day, and I got sick of it. I grabbed her hand and I bent all her fingers back and broke every one of them, and I felt like it was justified. I just know that I couldn't sit there and watch her do that to my father. Even though he was the way he was on me, he was all we had left. And he had, like I said, he was a harsh person on me, but he did a lot to take care of us. But I watched her. I remember he was in right before he died. He looked at my brother and me, and I was feeding him water, because it had spread throughout. Even after they gave him a tray, they it went throughout all his lymph nodes. He had like 44 lymph nodes removed, and it just took over his body. And I watched, and he said to me and my brother, he said, I just promise me one thing. And I said, Dad, whatever, man, whatever, I love you, whatever. He said, promise me you two will stay together. And I said, I looked down at my little brother, and he's standing next. I'm like, man, he's 9, I'm 14. And I said, yeah. I said, Dad, that's my little brother, man. I love him more than the world. And my brother's not, and it's sad because he's crying, and of course I understood. He's fixing to pass away. He's about to die. He's upset. But he said to me, he said, promise me you two will stay together. And I was like I said, I was just like, yeah, of course we're going to stay together. But, I know now what I didn't know then about why he was crying. And I'll tell you what, this is 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, a week after he passed away. He ended up, well, let me tell you that. He said that, and then the next, like 2 hours later, I was giving him more water. And he gurgled a little bit, and I was holding his head up. And then he passed away. And we were right there. And it devastated me. I didn't know. I just, I'm in complete shock. I went through this once. And then I've also went through with my grandparents, my mother and my grandparents, and other relatives. It was ongoing, a rapid pace. Like, these years were back to, it was wild. And so my brother, and of course, he's like, but dad was his hero. Dad was his hero. And he tells me, my brother told me till, all his life that that our dad was his hero. And tell stories about them too. He'd always talk about it. So they went to take him out of the people that come, and they were going to take him out of the house. And my brother, he acted up, I acted up. We weren't ready for him to go. We wanted to stand there with him for some longer, and we was wanted to talk to him before he went. I mean, we just wanted to talk to him, like, Dad, you did everything you could for us. Like, you did everything you could for us. And I just looked at my brother in the eyes, and I was like, man, this is what. I turned. I knew it wasn't going to be good. I knew it wasn't going to be good. And a week after he passed away, and they got him. He left, and they took him to the funeral and whatnot. Pam says, my stepmother, that she's going to take us to her parents' house for a week so that she can get all the stuff from hospice and everything out of the house and get, like the death out of the house and whatever she's talking about. And that we were going to go stay with her parents for a week. So we get we get our stuff together, and it's an awful mighty lot of stuff. But I don't know what she had going on, so we put it in the trunk of my dad's car, and she takes us to Fort Myers, and her parents live in North Fort Myers, and we get out of the car. She's sitting in the front seat. She said they're fixing to meet us here soon. We get all of our bags out of the trunk, and my little brother's doing everything he can to get his, and he was sad, man. It's sad, and she says, "Are all the bags out?" And I said, "Yeah," and she shut the car door and she left. My brother's looking up at me. He's like, "Bro, what just happened? Where did she go? What just happened?" I said, "Bro, you just come with me. You just come with me. You know, it was, that was it. That was the end of it. That was it. She was gone. She was gone." And our journey with me and my brother, it just gets even worse. And I just I just know that I had him, and I know now what I didn't know then about when my father said, "Please promise me you stay together." He knew that she wasn't going to keep us, and that she was going to use all his money. And he had a house being built at the time, and it wasn't unfinished. He was trying to do his best, and he couldn't get the house finished before he passed. And it happened, and it happened legitimately. She didn't get any trouble for it, and so our journey began.